Honestly, don't mind my hair. I just left a hurricane in Mexico. It's real rough right now. Hey, my name is Adewanola Johnson, and you're listening to Tried and True, where we discuss universal truths about our court system as told through my experience as a traveling trial watcher. One of the greatest lessons I learned as a traveling trial watcher is that the legal system is not actually broken. In fact, the legal system is functioning exactly as intended when you consider its purpose. The legal system does not exist to administer justice as much as it exists to uphold a state's priorities. And more often than not, a state's priorities are peace and order, even if they have to manufacture it, even if it comes at the expense of justice. What do I mean by that? It means every day, thousands of people enter courtrooms and they raise their right hand and they take their oath and they plead not guilty and they think the facts and evidence and the law will be on their side and that they will receive a fair trial. Unbeknownst to them, none of that is going to matter. Why? Because their case is at odds with state interests. Think of it this way. If a state declares a war on drugs, then you'd better hope that you're not charged with a drug offense. If a state declares a war on drugs and an opioid crisis, you'd better hope you're not charged with a drug offense that includes fentanyl and heroin, because then you're extra screwed. At that point, the legal system is there to make an example out of you to deter other people from committing the same offense, okay? Which means that they're going to bring the full force of the law against you, even if it means overcharging, even if it means manipulating evidence, because again, they're there to uphold a state's priorities. At that point, a trial exists to give the illusion of due process. And that's just the God's honest truth. I knew this to be true when I was able to apply that lesson to the most widely known trial of all time. And no, I'm not referring to O.J. Simpson. I'm referring to the State of Rome versus Jesus Christ of Nazareth. And as a show of good faith, I'm about to tell you something that I never thought I would even admit out loud. This is a realization that I had about halfway through my experience of watching jury trials across North America. I sat down and I had a very frank conversation with myself, and I said, objectively speaking, if I was a civil servant under the Caesar administration, and you asked me to play the game, right? And provide my best advice to Justice Pilate on what to do with Mr. Christ based on an environmental scan of the socio-political environment, my advice to him would have been to get rid of Mr. Christ by any means possible. Full stop. You have to understand, you can't separate the law from politics, and that case was a political landmine when you consider the who, what, when, where, and why. Justice Pilate wasn't really a judge. First and foremost, he was a Roman governor. Do you know what that means? It means he's a political appointment, and a political appointment's job is to uphold the state's priorities, right? That means the smartest thing that the religious authorities could have done to successfully ensure the prosecution and execution of Mr. Christ was to stir the crowd. Why? Because stirring the crowd resulted in disorder. What's Justice Pilate's greatest weakness as Roman governor? Disorder. At that point, not only is his job on the line, but the successful continuation of Caesar's administration and occupation over the land of Judea is also at risk. At that point, it's personal. At that point, Mr. Christ is just a casualty of state interests, because there's no such thing as, oh, white person this, black person this. No. In the state's eyes, there's only two people: casualties of state interests and beneficiaries of state interests. And at that point, Mr. Christ was a casualty of state interests, like the thousands of people who enter our court system every day. Stick around for the next episode of Tried and True.